Hi, beautiful. Welcome to Radical Radiance. I hope that you've enjoyed the most recent 2 chapters of the book. And this month, we are doing something different. I am not providing you with a tapping routine this month. This month, I am going to show you how to tap for yourself. Because these last few months, we have done so much tapping together. And hopefully with that, maybe in conjunction with High Vibe Honey or some of the other things that I do with you, you've learned a little bit about tapping, but I get questions about how to tap all the time. And so I want to give you some of my tips on how to make it really easy for yourself so that you can bust through those old neuro associations and replace them with new ones. That's what this most recent chapter was all about. It's about looking at the things that you believe, looking at the stories that you tell yourself and being like, I don't want to keep this in my body. I want to make space for a new belief and learning how to do that. So today I'm going to teach you how to do that for yourself so that no matter what neuro associations might come up for you, you have a way of dealing with it yourself. You don't have to rely on me to hopefully make a video about tapping that's relevant to you. You can bust it down yourself. The first thing I want to let you know about tapping is that you can't do it wrong. There's no way that you can somehow screw up tapping and fuck with your brain in a negative way. The only way that this works is it breaks down old stagnant energy. So there's really nothing that you can do in tapping that's going to give you a terrible or an adverse side effect. So put any fears you may have about doing it badly to rest right now. You really can't fuck it up. The worst thing that would happen is you weren't specific enough about an issue, and so you don't find the resolution that you're looking for, and you don't get down to a place of feeling comfortable around it as quickly as you could have. So that's really the only thing that can go wrong, and if that's the only thing that can go wrong, you're pretty golden. So with tapping, it's important to drink water. I say this every single time we do a tapping video together, but I really want to remind you because sometimes I find that if I don't drink enough water before or after I tap, I don't feel the shift as strongly as I would have otherwise. I don't just say it because it's fun. I don't just say it because it's good to be hydrated. I really say it because the more water you drink, the more effective the tapping will be. So please, please, please drink some water. If you could get like a liter in before and after, like get a liter in kind of around the time that you're tapping, then you will be doing really well and you'll feel the shift so quickly. It's also really important to be very specific when you're tapping. So you could dance around the periphery of a problem all day long while you're tapping, but you won't experience a lot of movement on it if you can't really nail exactly how you're feeling. So I've written down a few questions here that I would love for you to write down for yourself so that you can create really effective tapping scripts and you can kind of start to understand how I put my tapping scripts together. So when I do a session with someone and we sit down, we do a session for an hour, and typically the first 25 minutes are of them talking about the problem and me asking questions. So it really does require a curious mind to nail this. You do want to get curious about what you're thinking, how it's feeling, where it might have come from, what it might lead to, and all of those kinds of things. So I think with manifesting, sometimes we feel like, oh, I can't think about what I don't want. I don't want to manifest that. I don't want to send myself down the wrong trail. When it comes to tapping, this is a time where it's really acceptable, if not like recommended, to kind of go to that dark place and get into it, get into the muck of it so that you can sort through it and break it up. It's one thing to like get into the muck of it when you have no intention of fixing it, and like obviously that's not going to feel very good. But if you can get into the muck of it so that you can bust it up and move forward, then that will feel really good. So with tapping scripts, usually the way that I start is by saying, even though I feel ... So what you want to do here is you want to pinpoint specific emotions. So somebody might say to me like, oh, I feel really jealous. So you might start off by saying like, okay, even though I feel jealous. And then what I'll say to them is like, okay, what does that jealousy feel like in your body? Does it feel heavy? Does it feel like a headache? Does it feel like nausea? Does it feel like indecision and nervousness. Like, what does that feel like? Get really specific about it. You might be able to find that you are able to pinpoint an emotion in your body. It might be in a specific place. It might be behind your shoulder. It might be in your stomach. It might be in your feet. It might be in the back of your head. And some people can even get as specific as naming the color that the emotion is or the shape of the emotion. I know that sounds very woo-woo, but people who think this way are like, I know what you're talking about, and people who don't aren't, and that's fine. It may not be your thing, but it's an option for sure. So you want to start asking yourself, how does it feel in the body? And so start to make some notes on how this emotion feels in the body. The next question is, what words describe your feelings best? So if someone says like, I'm feeling sad, that's not a very descriptive word. It might be better to say I'm feeling bitter, or I'm feeling resentful, or I'm feeling irritated, or I'm feeling frustrated. Let's go as deep as we can with using really specific language. The more specific the language, the more effective this will be. Another question to ask yourself is, where are you afraid this will lead you to? So it's not always feeling the bad feeling that is the source of pain or stress or worry. It's often that we think that it's going to lead to something else. So if you're jealous in your relationship, for example, that obviously sucks. It's not a fun feeling, but you might be more afraid of like the fact that your partner might cheat on you, or the fact that you're not interesting enough to hold their attention, or that they're going to leave you, they're going to abandon you. So what you want to do is ask yourself, what am I afraid this will turn into? Where am I afraid this will go? What is my worst case scenario here? What do I envision this becoming? And get really specific about that too. So when you're about to tap, you could have all of this written down and kind of just fill in the blanks so that when you're tapping, you don't forget what you're talking about. So you have all these little touch points on a piece of paper right in front of you. It'll make your life way easier. Another question to ask yourself when you're playing with a feeling, you're getting curious about a feeling, is to ask yourself, what does this feeling remind me of? So if you're dealing with jealousy, maybe this is something that's come up in the past, and maybe it reminds you of a previous relationship. Or maybe it reminds you of a best friend abandoning you for someone else. And so you want to get curious about, like, what does this remind me of? You know, what situations have I had in my past that this like feels resonant to or similar to, and getting curious about that. Another piece of tapping that can really help is sometimes we beat ourselves up for wishing we felt differently or wishing that we behaved differently. So you can even throw in there, even though I wish ... and you can put in there whatever it is. Even though I wish I didn't feel this way, even though I wish I wasn't wired like this, even though I wish he wouldn't behave that way, whatever it is, you can throw that into your script as well. That might add a little extra oomph. The biggest things that tapping seems to center around are the big issues that all humans are afraid of, which are being abandoned, being rejected, fear of change, fear that things will never change, fear that we are unlovable, fear that we are unworthy, fear that we are not good enough, fear of failure, and fear of success. Those are the big ones. So you might find that with whatever you're tapping on, you're always able to track it to one of those things. I'm afraid that I'm going to fail, or I'm afraid that I'm going to succeed. And if you can track it to one of those things, go really deep on that. If you are afraid of succeeding, what would that look like? Does that mean your friends would leave you? Does it mean you might have to leave the city that you grew up in? What does that mean in your mind? What does your fear tell you might happen? We have to get really honest with our feelings when we're tapping so that we can figure out where the fuck they're coming from. And so we have a lot of ammunition to just destroy them while we're tapping. Now, my script with tapping is always just, even though ... ramble, I deeply and completely love and accept and forgive myself. As long as you have that line in there that you deeply and completely love and accept and forgive yourself, everything is going to be okay. It's going to break up everything that you say. It's going to tease it apart. It's going to give you space so that you understand it. And if you try tapping on your own, which you may never have tried, You will be amazed at the insights that come through when you're really focused on your tapping and you're telling yourself that you love, accept, and forgive yourself. These are the magic words. Saying those things breaks the energy up so much and releases the stress so much that you'll be able to see solutions like that really quickly. You'll be amazed by how this works. So I really want to encourage you to give it a shot. Even if you're nervous about it, even if you're not sure how to do it, I know that you can fucking nail this, and it's going to be really, really powerful for you. And learning how to tap by yourself is an incredible skill that you will never lose and that you can use whenever you want. That's why I love tapping so much. The other thing I wanted to say just before we go is that if you're tapping and you're just starting, or even if you're a seasoned fucking pro, you might find that you need to ramble about the subject while you're tapping on your karate chop point or whatever for a while to get to the crux of the issue. And if it takes you half an hour of tapping and talking to really figure out what's going on for you, then that's okay too. So I want to recommend that you give yourself some time to do it. Try not to do it within like a 5 or 10 minute period. Try and do it when you know you're going to have some real space to yourself. And also to like go to a place where you're going to be alone and undisturbed. If you live with a whole bunch of people, maybe you tell them like, yo, I'm taking a bath. Please don't come in the bathroom, and like lock the door behind you. And just give yourself that time so that you can really sink into it without feeling the pressure to rush to the next thing or whatever. Finally, another thing I'd like to say is that some things you might have to hit over and over again to create some traction and get some movement. Some issues are very deep-seated, and when you hit it from one side, then another side pops up, and then another side pops up. So you might have to hit the same thing from a few different angles. So whenever you're tapping, pay attention to what thoughts you're having, what's coming up for you. And even if something that seems really unrelated seems to be coming into your mind, I want you to give yourself permission to just talk about that, because there's a reason why it's coming up. There's a reason why your subconscious is spitting that out. So be curious and allow yourself to follow those weird little trails, because they often have a like massive pot of gold at the end of them. So those are my tips on tapping for the month, and I really hope that they're helpful. As always, if you have any questions, please ask me in the comment box below, and I will do my best to answer them. And I would also love to hear about any successes you've had with tapping or of breaking neuro associations in the past. I think the coolest thing about this book is that we've been doing this the whole time, and that's really exciting to like be doing this with you and showing you that it's possible. We often get hung up on the idea that like things can't change and it's never going to get better and it's never going to be different. But I know that that is not true. And now you do too. I love you very much. I'll see you next month.